In the wake of a campaign in which we saw unrelenting voter suppression from one end of the country to the other, in the course of 10 months, the NAACP secured 9 victories against voter suppression. In North Carolina, we saw 5% of the electorate, their votes being endangered, and we won a case in the Fourth Circuit where the very conservative court said that the state legislature engaged in intentional racial discrimination. Similarly, in Texas, we saved 630,000 votes. But here's the problem. The election's over, but voter suppression yet continues. Securing and protecting the right to vote is literally the gateway issue. So where you have an electorate that is dominated by millennials, that is becoming increasingly more diverse, more reflective of the country, we have the opportunity for progressive reform for years to come. So at the very top of our agenda in this Twitter age civil rights movement is securing the right to vote, which is quite simply a rather old-fashioned fight for the NAACP. Where we see all across the country in the wake of Trayvon Martin's death, Michael Brown's death, in the wake of Tamir Rice and the loss of life by so many inexplicably across the country, we have a millennial generation of activists who are woke, who are aware, who are conscious, calling for policing reform. They're doing so because they understand the empirical reality that a young black man is 21 times more likely to lose his life at the hands of the police than his white counterpart. This is also true with respect to members of the LGBTQ community, Latinos, Muslims, people who look different or who are regarded as objects of suspicion as opposed to subjects of protection. So one of the things that we need to take note of is let us not underestimate this generation and overestimate and romanticize the previous generation. When you look at an elder statesman like John Lewis, who sat down in the well of the House, who is the conscience of the Congress, he is such as an elder statesman, but his journey began as a 19-year-old, as a high schooler who wrote Dr. King letter after letter about joining the civil rights movement. Similarly, we have a generation today that is woke, is conscious, that is aware, that's literally on the front lines of social justice. They are in fact the leaven in the bread. They are in fact pushing the envelope in responsibly radical ways. It's not enough to shut things down. You got to be able to start things up. It's not enough to protest. You also have to be in a position to do policy. 20 miles from Amherst College, I would suspect, is some small town with some issue where they need serious research capability. They need someone who can put in the time and the thoughtfulness to take on a local issue. There's students here who can do that. There's students here who can go to the Mississippi Delta, can go to North Carolina, can go to any of the black and brown belt across the country where we've seen voter suppression and lend not only their bodies, not only their moral outrage, but their analytic capabilities. As a young man, when I began my career at the Justice Department, a couple of years out of law school, I had a record legal settlement. Not because I was particularly experienced, not because I was particularly bright, I happened to be there. And so it is with this social justice movement and moment that we're in. Amherst is a treasure, and here's what I mean. When you have an open curriculum, where you can take courses of your choosing each year you're here, where you have an institution that's focused on undergraduate education with a small student to faculty ratio, there's room for intellectual curiosity, and that is so important because a career in social justice is not a matter of just majoring in social justice studies or political science or jurisprudence. It's about having a broad understanding of human nature, a broad understanding of history and of literature and of philosophy, so that you understand justice and injustice in the context of the human condition. That, I think, is an extraordinary preparation, and it's important. Don't be preoccupied with networking vertically. Think about networking laterally. So often in life, we want to meet with people who are more skilled, more experienced, more well-traveled, who seem like they're farther advanced in their careers than we are, and that's important. It is at least as important to maintain contact and relationships and friendships with your peers. The reason being, 10 years after you graduate, 20 years after you graduate, your roommate will always take your phone call. Why? Because you've come through this experience together. Incredibly important. Lastly, I would say here, don't underestimate the power of determination. There's a fallacy in college that whoever's smartest will be the most successful. Well, there's probably some correlation between intelligence and success, but more often than not, success is really predicated on sheer determination. How bad do you want it? How much are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to do to reach your goal? And that has everything to do with character. And so 4 years in college, writing papers, going to class, learning, developing, trying to figure out who you are and who you are in the world, builds character, it builds determination, and those are going to be the same tools that you take into a career. Nurture your inner life, your spiritual life. Whatever your particular faith tradition, it's important. So those are little bits of advice I'd offer.